days' time from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Before we officially begin, I want to invite everyone to take a few moments to reflect and to perhaps pray quietly right when I'm done speaking here. We want to pray for the well-being of everyone who's been impacted by the hurricane. I would feel remiss if I didn't take a moment that we could all hold everyone, including the animals and all God's creatures who may be suffering and will continue to suffer. And we know on the turn of a dime, it could be us. Many here in Tallahassee have lived or grown up in areas hit by this storm. Many still have friends or family there, and many have cherished memories as well. We wish for safety. We wish for physical and emotional healing. We wish for a personal and financial recovery and peace for everyone affected by this storm. Please take a moment in our sanctuary here together for silent, personal prayer or meditation on this. We will take a full minute, and then I will ring a little chime. The chime does not mean an end to holding everyone in your heart. You can continue that theme of prayer and caring all through Shabbat and all through the days ahead. I want to welcome everyone who's observing at home tonight. You are here with us under the tent, whether you are in your living room, on the road, or here in Temple Israel. I want to welcome everyone that is here in this sanctuary as well. It is so good to be together. We will begin on page 6 at the bottom with a reading. You are welcome to read along, or if you like, you can close your eyes and relax and let the reading sort of wash through you as you arrive into your Shabbat. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, for all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the doors of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Welcome, Jesse. Welcome, everyone. I want to give so much appreciation also to my son, Jacob, who will be not only supporting us musically, but will also be leading us through our Hebrew prayers tonight. And how wonderful it is that the next generations are participating in this way. Maya Fesh Hayom. Oh, Jacob, what page? What's that? He had an inspiration to add this at the beginning, which is a wonderful way to begin.
I'm not sure what page it is. Somewhere.
Page 10. All right, community, let's do this together. Page 10, thank you. Yafesh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafesh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, shalom, Shabbat, shalom, Mayafesh hayom, Shabbat, shalom, Mayafesh hayom, Shabbat, shalom. How lovely today is. Shabbat shalom. We will now turn to the back for Shir Chadash, a beautiful song of praise, page 344. The beauty of Shir Chadash is it can be sung in many places, but praise, traditionally, is what we do in the beginning of a service to get us ready spiritually for our prayers. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song. Beautiful, everyone. I hear your hearts unfolding with the joining of voices together for this Shabbat. This Shabbat, by the way, is a special Shabbat. The Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur happens once and only once a year. It is called Shabbat Shuvah. Shuvah from Teshuvah, Shuvah meaning to return. You will notice later on when Jacob does prayers in the Hebrew, if you follow along with your Siddur, if you want to do that, you'll notice there's a little bit of text, Gesundheit. You'll notice a little text for the Shabbat Shuvah that is only said for this Shabbat. And let me also share that Shabbat Shuvah is a Shabbat, so therefore it's always joyful. However, this Shuvah is, the emphasis of the Shabbat tonight is about Teshuvah. It's a little more somber, it's a little more soulful, it's a little more introspective. This Shabbat is to help guide our way towards our own Teshuvah, towards Yom Kippur. So you may feel that this has a more soulful, reflective tone. I have the honor of inviting up Samantha Sachs to kindle our Shabbat lights. Thank you, Samantha, for taking this honor. You can join her on page 2, or you can just, again, open your ears, hearts, and minds and enjoy this moment of ushering in Shabbat together with Samantha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you, Samantha. We are now honored with our Rabbi Garfein and his Kiddush. Oh, of course.
Let us praise God with the symbol of joy and thank God for the blessings of our past turbulent week. The first responders who risked their own lives to save the lives of others, trapped in places where they're unable to escape on their own, but have first responders who help preserve the lives of others. They're a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodesho, b'ava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemaseh v'reshit, kihu yom techilah, lemikra kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kedashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodecha v'ava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
You are a blessing and an honor, Rabbi Garfein.
Well, thank you.
We really appreciate the additional words that Rabbi Garfein shared and prepared tonight in honor of the first responders and everyone suffering from the hurricane. That was an additional honor. Thank you for sharing that. We will now turn to page 14. We will sing a song in Hebrew. Feel free to join in for what you know, or just enjoy the sound of the ancient language rolling through you. It's Or Zarua, which you will see the bottom stanza here. O Zarua la tzadik, U'ishrei lev simcha. O Zarua la tzadik, U'ishrei lev simcha. O Zarua la tzadik, U'lishrei lev simcha. O Zarua la tzadik, U'lishrei lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim, Baronai, Baronai, v'hodu l'zecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim, Baronai, v'hodu l'zecher kocho. O Zarua Tzadik, Uli Shrele Simha. O Zarua Tzadik, Uli Shrele Simha. Simhu Tzadikim, Baronai, Baronai, Lahodu Lezecher Kocho. Simhu Tzadikim, Baronai, Lahodu Lezecher Kocho. O Zarua Tzadik, Uli Shrelev Simha. O Zarua Tzadik, Uli Shrelev Simha. What a beautiful, beautiful prayer. What a beautiful song. Thank you, Jacob, for your musicality with that. And greeters, thank you for greeting and watching over us and keeping us safe. And we hold our greeters in the realm of the sanctuary and our law enforcement wherever they are. And such gratitude. Amen. Please turn now to page 17. This will be Psalm 99. And we are going to read responsively, beginning from Mighty Ruler Who Loves Justice. I will read a couplet, and then I will turn it over to you, and we will go back and forth. Mighty Ruler who loves justice, it was you who established equity. Exalt Adonai our God, and bow toward God's holy hill, for Adonai our God is holy. We will now stay on page 17 for Romemu, a more vigorous song of praise. We're going to temper our vigor a little bit to keep that Shabbat Shuvah a little more of an internal journey. So we're balancing. So much of Judaism is about balance. We'll be balancing joy with reflection. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Feishachavu Lecha Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Feishachavu Lecha Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Feishachavu Lecha Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Feishachavu Lecha Kodsho. Turn now, please, to page 20 and 21. This will be Lecha Dodi. This is where we're bringing more focused intention to welcome in Shabbat, to welcome in the Shabbat bride. We will sing the chorus together, and I will read the verses in English so we can have more connection to what is this about? What are we doing here as we are listening, preparing for the Shabbat bride? And at around verse 5 or so, I will guide us up and we will turn to welcome the door. I need the verses. Having a moment here. I need a hand with Lecha Dodi, the verses.
We usually do 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Right. So 1, 2, 5, and mine being the Adonai Malach. Okay. Interesting. Ah. A simple turn of the page. A simple turn of the page. Sometimes problems can feel so big, and the mind can shut down, and then we go into a little panic. But what are we here for if not to support each other? It is okay to feel lost and to reach out and ask for help, and sometimes that help comes. Sometimes it doesn't come, but we have faith and trust in God. We will find our way. This is a little moment, but perhaps reflective of a bigger one. Lecha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela. And I will read in English verse 1. Keep and remember a single command. The only God caused us to hear. The eternal is one. Name is one, glory and praise are God's. Lecha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela. Royal Shrine, City of Kings, rise up and leave your ravaged state. You have dwelt long enough in the valley of tears. Now God will shower mercy upon you. Lecha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela. An end to shame and degradation. Forget your sorrow. Quiet your groans. The afflicted of my people find respite in you. The city renewed, ancient, upon its ancient ruins. Lecha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela. Enter in peace, O crown of your husband, your spouse, your loved one. Enter in gladness, enter in joy. Come to the people that keeps its faith. Enter, O bride. Enter, O bride. We will remain standing for our final verse together. Lecha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela. Thank you for entering in, and please be seated, the Shabbat bride so beautifully. Thank you for your grace and support and trading in perfection and accuracy as a lay leader, but caring for the meaning, for the purpose, for the welcome, and for the community. Please turn now to page 22 for Mizmor Shir. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehadod lahadonai, O Zamir l'shimcha elyon, O Zamir l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehadod lahadonai, O Zamir l'shimcha elyon, O Zamir l'shimcha elyon. O Zamir limshov hasdecha, Oro, Oro, you know this. Mismoshi liyom hashabbat tov lehado lahadonai uzamir l'shimcha elyon uzamir l'shimcha elyon Mismoshi liyom hashabbat tov lehadod lahadonai uzamir l'shimcha elyon uzamir l'shimcha elyon. We turn now to page 28 for the Barhu. Barhu means the call to prayer. So this journey in Shabbat Shuvah, as it is for all Shabbat, we praise and then we prepare ourselves for prayer. The Barhu is the gateway, tilting towards the call to worship. And please rise if you are willing and able. This will be the reflective Barhu for Shabbat Shuvah, asking the question, am I awake? Am I prepared? And what a good time to ask that question in this journey from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalalai. 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 You may be seated. We turn around. I forgot to turn around. And I'm grateful that my child knows this and has so much knowledge to continue on the next generation in my family, and I hope the same for all of you. So apologies for that, and I hope again we're here for togetherness. And I figure how many Shabbats when we were out in the wilderness? How many Shabbats are going right now in Tampa? So we are now rolling to dark on page 30. And shall I be forward or backward? Turn around for Bahu. Next time I'll know. And everyone, help me. You can even come up and join me. If you feel like you would be an anchor and a pillar of support, we are Jews here together. So feel free, or not. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borayom v'layla, goleo mipnei choshech. Borayom v'layla, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day. And you can keep singing that in English while I do the Hebrew. Borei yom v'layla, goleo mipnei choshech, goleo mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Let's fill the room. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. We turn now to page 32 for Ahavat Olam, the Shema. The Shema we will do after Ahavat Olam, if that's okay. Wonderful. But if it feels important, we can do it before. Okay. So Ahavat Olam is a song of tenderness. One more time? Yes. It's a song and it's a prayer of tenderness about God's everlasting love. So when we're feeling dark, we're feeling confused, we may feel we're not observing the high holy days properly, we're not helping the people that are suffering properly, whatever may be going on, Ahavat Olam is something that you can turn to. And we are going to read this responsively, and Jacob may give us some music as we do our reading together. And you can again join in the reading, or you can close your eyes and listen, whatever feels right for you. Everlasting love, you offer your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Israel. Shema. You may be seated, you may stand, you may cover your eyes. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malkuno Leolam Va'ed. And we move into the Ve'ahavta for page 36. I chant the Ve'ahavta a little more slowly than some. I find it an important prayer, of course. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham v'shivtecha b'veitecha ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. As we turn to page 39, remember, for many of us who have a mezuzah, the Ve'ahavta is inside your mezuzah. When you come and when you go, the words of the Ve'ahavta may get a little more inscribed on your heart. I will read the first stanza, you will read the second, and we can finish together on the third. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. In this Shabbat tonight, we are truly joining hands and we are truly marching together. Please turn now to page 40, just the next page, for Micha Mocha. Micha Mocha, many of us know, is about the crossing of the sea, right? It is about Miriam and our people escaping slavery and getting to move forward as a free people. How beautiful to get to sing Micha Mocha together. Micha Mocha b'harim Adonai, Micha Mocha neder kodesh, Nora tehilot osef ele, Nora tehilot osef ele. Who is like you, Adonai? Like you, Adonai. Micha Mocha b'harim Adonai, Micha Mocha neder kodesh, Nora tehilot osef ele, Nora tehilot osef ele. Please turn now to page 43. We will read at the top together. Before we begin, by the way, some of you may have heard some of the anthem, the songs for Rosh Hashanah this year. Let there be love and understanding among us. Take a moment and read that to yourselves before we read together so we can really imprint that on our heart. Our High Holy Days worship leadership chose this song to help guide our way through High Holy Days. Let there be love and understanding among us. So we begin reading together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukat shalom. Aleinu v'yakol amo Israel v'yamu Yerushalayim. I'm going to have some water. Yes. Okay. Jacob, it is a blessing that you can do this. I'm really proud of you. Please rise for the tefillah on page 46. Let us now prepare our hearts and minds more deeply. Some of this Hebrew, we may not know what it means. You're welcome to read the English, or you're welcome to let these ancient rhythms and sounds ground you as a Jew, as an interfaith family, as a member of support in our community.
And also, when we get to a part marked Shabbat Shuvah, I'll take a break from chanting, and we can all say that part out together. Adonai sefakai tahu via gita ilahecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elokei Avotinu ve'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel HaTerim Tovi, Ve'konei HaKol, Ve'toher HaSeirot Ve'ima'ut, Umevi'ula Livnei B'neihem, Le'man Shemo Be'ahava, Ve'chomeinu L'chaim, Melech HaFetz B'chaim, Ve'chotinu Be'sefer HaChaim, Le'man HaElohim Chaim. Melech Oter U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lahushia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Zomech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir atzurim, Umchayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Nihalo chabal gevuro, Umido melach, Melech nihit umchayim, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Nichamocha al harachani, Zocher yitzurav lechayim barachani. V'ne'eman atah hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kedoshim b'chol yom yehalim v'selah. Baruch atah Adonai, HaMelech HaKadosh.
Yasher Koach. We will now read silently to page 62. Jacob, you may play a little music to allow people to be reflective. You may again just relax and breathe and contemplate the spirit of Shabbat, or choose passages that are meaningful for you. All the way to page 62, then we will come back together on page 62 for Oseh Shalom. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. Disturb us, Adonai. Ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied. satisfied with the peace of ignorance. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn lovingly to your servants. Pour out your Spirit upon us. God in goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words. Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever. When you have concluded your own silent meditation, you may be seated. And we move our hearts from this silent meditation to a song of peace. Oseh Shalom, meaning may we bring down the peace of heavens. And that is always needed. There's never a time that is not needed. It is needed now for each and every one of us, for all beings, for all God's creatures, big and small. Oseh Shalom Bimramo, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Be'akol Israel, V'imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'akol Israel. 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 What a beautiful balance of poignancy and joy. The focus of this Shabbat, Shabbat Shuvah, is teshuvah. Shuvah, meaning to return. The Hebrew word shuvah begins in the Torah and appears in the Torah in many ways. We see the word shuvah, meaning to return, literally, concretely, to return an object that was stolen from its rightful owner. We see that in Leviticus chapter 5, verse 23. Shuvah also means to return something that was lost and its original owner cannot find it. And that is also Shuvah, teshuvah, from Deuteronomy chapter 22. For us here right now, Shuvah, what is lost? What is lost? And what is getting returned? What is getting lost and what is getting returned and who is it getting returned to? Well, what is lost and what can get returned is aspects of our own true self. That is teshuvah, to return to one's true self, the home of one's soul. What may be lost and what we may be able to find again, maybe tonight, maybe this journey to Yom Kippur. The aspects of ourselves that we want to reclaim, that can readily and easily perform mitzvot without any push, without any effort, without any grumbling. Maybe we can return to the self that reflects and pauses before we engage in a possibly hurtful speech or action. Maybe we can return to ourselves, the self that makes healthy and life-affirming choices. Like polishing tarnish off of silver, we shine more brightly, and our true nature expresses itself with successful teshuvah. From Isaiah chapter 55, verse 6, seek God when God is to be found. Call on God when God is near. Now is that time. Now, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is a special window open for all of us. And the more we observe, the more that openness is real, and the more it allows us to teshuvah. A few moments of reflection on teshuvah may be all that you need. A few moments when you lie down, or when you rise up, or when you're observing something in nature, or hearing music, or at a service tonight. When you pass by the mezuzah on your door. These can all be moments for all of us to reflect and do our teshuvah. One can also focus simply on the golden rule from Hillel from the 1st century BCE. What is hateful to you, do not do unto your neighbor. A fine focal point for teshuvah. So, how do we specifically do teshuvah? What do we do? Maimonides laid this out very clearly back in the 12th century. Many of this may seem simple today. It seems simple to us because it all goes back to Maimonides. So here are the basic steps boiled down from Maimonides. Step 1 for teshuvah. Verbally confess the mistake or the miss or inappropriate action and ask for forgiveness. Step 2, sincere remorse. Lip service does not work. Sincere remorse and resolution to not repeat it again. Step 3 for teshuvah. Do everything within your power to correct the situation. Do everything you can to right the wrong and to appease the person who is hurt, even if you think they're being too dramatic, even if you think they've misunderstood because you really meant well. Step 3 is appeasing and caring the person that feels hurt. And step 4, be different. Act differently the next time the same situation or the same dynamic arises. And that is the full cycle of teshuvah. That is why repent is not the right translation. Repent is one step of this, to say you're sorry. If you stop there, that is not teshuvah. We are never supposed to dwell in self-criticism. We are never supposed to dwell in guilt. That is not our Jewish way. Don't beat yourself up if you do. This is here to help you. So, this teshuvah doesn't all happen in neat steps. It's not like day 1, I do step 1, I got that, then I do step 2, then I got step 4, boom, 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 I've got it. Sometimes when we're ready to turn, we do so quickly. Other times, like we're going to see with Moses, it can take a lifetime. It could take a whole season to do step 1, confessing your mistake. That's fine. What matters is to stay engaged in the process and not be lazy. And if we are lazy, to just recognize that and get back on your step. Torah makes it abundantly clear that God understands we are imperfect. Therefore, we will not do teshuvah perfectly. That's fine. The effort is what matters. A powerful way to see teshuvah in action is with Moses himself in this week's parsha. This parsha is Deuteronomy, Vayelech. It is almost the last parsha in Moses' life. We are at a huge pivot point in our journey as a Jewish people in the Torah. We're hovering on the banks of the River Jordan, about to enter the Promised Land. That is where we are. Parsha Vayelech is incredibly short as a parsha, and it is very direct. It contains the final speech, the final teaching of Moses. So here's where we are. Moses and the Hebrew people are gathered at the banks of the River Jordan, and they, or we, have not yet crossed to the Promised Land. Moses is giving his final teaching. In his teaching, he speaks about how the future may be very bright and very successful for the Jewish people then and now. And yet, he says very clearly, the Hebrew people will also have very, very hard times. We will have times where we make poor and ungodly choices. Moses explains in his very last teaching to us that bad things will result from our poor choices. And he says, not just minor troubles, but we are going to have tremendous challenges. And that's going to be part of our journey forward. There will also be some brokenness. There will be brokenness between us, between each other, and between us and God. But this will not be forever. There will be brokenness even between us and God, but it will not be forever. So, scholars through the centuries have been debating on why would Moses say these things on his very last speech? Why does he lay out all of these negative things that may happen? I argue, like many, that Moses says these things because it is obvious that we will sometimes go astray. It is obvious that we will sometimes make very bad choices and that bad things are going to happen. So it is important that we know not to quit when bad things happen. It is important that we know that all is not lost, that even if we feel really broken and really broken from each other and from God, it is not forever. Ultimately, God will not forsake us. Our people will stay strong and we will move forward. So take heart, even in the darkest night. I offer the idea that realistic expectations can build stamina and resilience in the face of obstacles. During these difficult times, Moses teaches that people will have the opportunity to turn. People will have the opportunity to teshuvah and to correct their right relationship with God and with each other. We will have the opportunity to see that when we behave badly, bad things happen, and we can learn from that. We also will get the opportunity, Moses says, to recognize the importance of listening and to follow the correct path of godliness. Moses reiterates many times, God will not forsake us. Moses tells the Hebrew people, and he's telling us today, be courageous. Be courageous. Good things will happen. Do not be afraid. Moses goes on to tell the people that he will be leaving soon, that he is going to die. He is going to pass on, and the end of his life is drawing near. He is very calm and very clear in this parsha. He informs them that he will not cross the River Jordan, that he, like us, will cross the river and arrive in the Promised Land on our own. But Moses did not just walk off into the mountains and leave us there. No. With God's help, Moses is very thoughtful about his leadership. He plans things out really well. He organizes structure for leadership, structure for launching and sustaining the Hebrew people's future once they reach the Holy Land. And he, with God's help, appoints Joshua as the next leader of the Hebrew people. Moses gives us a very important song to guide us through our years ahead. That is the next parsha. Moses writes down all of God's laws, every single law that God has given Moses that he knows to date. He writes those down meticulously and instructs very carefully to put them in the ark to preserve them for the future. And then Moses gives the Hebrew people a great pep talk. He gives great encouragement. He gives heartfelt inspiration, and he helps the Hebrew people to be brave and to stay on course. He says, "Be steadfast and strong, for you are to go to the land that God has swore to your fathers to give to you. God will not let go of you, nor will God forsake you. Fear nothing and do not be frightened." Keep in mind that these early Hebrew people had been slaves, and they were the children of slaves who were literally homeless and traveling through the desert and the wilderness for 40 years. These are not empowered and confident people as of yet. So these words of encouragement that Moses gives to launch the next generation of Jews is very important. So now let's zoom into Moses himself. And how does Moses do teshuvah? The way Moses handles the end of his life and the current reality at hand can be very instructive for each of us about how can we face death, how can we face life, and how can we do teshuvah. Because in previous parsha, many previous parsha, Moses, I would say, is a bit of a mess. Moses is struggling against the knowledge that he won't make it to the promised land. He is really attached. He is fixed on personally himself wanting to get to the promised land. So in multiple parsha, he is angry, he lashes out, he is grieving, he's quaking, he's not his best self. But in this parsha, we see that Moses has come to terms. We see that Moses has faced this issue and he has accepted it. So he is no longer railing against this reality that he won't make it to the promised land. He's no longer stuck in rage and fear. He's in acceptance and clarity now. His mind is clear and his sense of purpose is strong. Moses now is calmly focused on his ultimate task of his life as a leader. And his task is not that Moses, gets to the promised land. His task, his purpose is to help the Jewish people out of slavery to make it to the promised land and establish ourselves as a free people. Many commentators argue that Moses finally recognizes that his time as a leader actually needs to conclude, that he is not the right leader for this next step. His work was to guide the people out of slavery towards the promised land, and that was his piece. His final efforts are to put into preservation, to preserve God's teachings, and to instill confidence and faith into the people. One interpretation of Moses here is that he has finally accepted that he won't get what he wants himself. He will not get to cross the river and enter the promised land, and he has accepted it's not all about him. He remembers his bigger purpose is leadership, shuvah. He is restoring himself to who he is. So he has regained his calm and positive spirit. Moses has turned to the home of his soul. Moses has completed teshuvah. Perhaps he is at his very best self in this final speech. A literal and perhaps superficial interpretation that some of you may know Why did Moses not get to go to the promised land? Superficially speaking, it is when he didn't hit a well properly. He hit it with a stick instead of calling out for the water to come out in a previous parsha, and then God says, you will not come to the promised land. A very trivial thing. I don't really think that was the reason why. It was building for a while. Moses, I think, had an inner voice that he was not going to be the leader in the promised land, and that God knew that too. And sometimes a certain moment comes, and then you clarify it. Moses overall was a very strong leader, but like everyone, he wasn't perfect. His leadership was about fleeing slavery and traveling through the desert. This is a very different skill set than establishing and leading a community in a fixed location. No one can be everything to all people in all situations. Perhaps Moses recognized that he's reached his moment, and it's time for someone new, Joshua, to take the mantle for the next chapter. This kind of clear thinking resolves inner tension. In previous moments, when Moses realized he wouldn't make it to the promised land, he was truly railing against it. He expressed anger and negativity with his relationship with God. But in Parsha Vayelech, we see that Moses has turned. He's no longer upset. He's no longer angry. He's no longer railing against God. He is, in fact, clear-eyed, vigorous of body, calm and clear and full of good energy. I thought of the Rolling Stones when I was writing this parsha. You can't always get what you want, but you sometimes find you get what you need. We may see here that what Moses really needed was to lead his people successfully out of slavery and to the promised land. He did it. He is fulfilled. And now he feels fulfilled. He is at peace and strong. Because he stopped his narrow-minded fixation on getting to the promised land himself, he's arguably at his very best. Moses has faced and crossed his inner river Jordan. He is at the culmination, I would argue, of his true self. Moses has corrected his behavior, and that is the kind of teshuvah that we can aspire to for Yom Kippur. So fast forward now to the year 2022, talking about teshuvah in the modern day. A few days ago, this past Wednesday, in the late morning, I myself sat outside preparing to write this Devar Torah. I sat by Lake Ella. Many of you may know Lake Ella. I was watching the egrets and the birds and the water, and I was watching the wind ripple on the little lake. And I had a phone conversation with Ron Sachs. And it was a great and long and moving conversation, a Temple Israel member, for those who don't know. He shared something very specific in that conversation that may seem small, but what he shared collided with my writing this Devar Torah, and it was so profound. I asked him if I could share it in this Devar Torah, and he said that I could. Ron, if you're watching, thank you. So here's what he said. He said, I make it a rule to never allow myself to have 2 bad days in a row. After a bad day, it's time to restart, refresh, and firmly greet the next day with an open mind and a positive attitude. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. And it really struck me, because that's teshuvah. What Ron talked about that day is one of the very central core aspects of teshuvah, because we all have bad days. We all have dark nights. We all have troubled times. Sometimes trouble befalls us, and sometimes bad things happen to good people, like right now. And we don't always get what we want. When we have a bad day or a dark night, what do? We can turn to Torah and to each other, our Temple Israel family, and we can lean on each other's wisdom and on each other's caring. We can go deeper and reconnect with our true purpose, like Moses. Moses reconnected with his true purpose of leadership. We can, like Samantha's dad, Ron Sachs, we can recognize that we're stuck in a bad day, and then we can make a decision to restart and refresh. We ought not to stay stuck in negativity or guilt or other troubles. Rather, we are taught to acknowledge our problem, express remorse, correct the harms done, and behave better at the next opportunity. We can follow these 4 steps of Maimonides and do everything in our power to right our wrong, make it up to the person harmed, and respond differently. As we do this, we will more and more be able to graciously and effectively return to who we are. Shabbat Shalom. We will now do blessings for those in need of healing. So we read names and then sing. Yes, lovely. And at the end of reading, please, everyone who wants to hold and name someone for healing, please do so. And at home, if you're able to use the chat, please use the chat so you're sharing as well with your virtual community. Sari Edbear, Jessica Osborne, Lois Friedman, Aaron Shorshevin, Fernando Casillas, Naomi Harris, Evan Fergenbaum, Audrey Williams, Kurt Reimer, Leslie Diaz, Jenny Engelbrecht Barbarino, Megan Lagas van der Ley, Tim Lyons, Marjorie Gilberg, Bronwyn Farrell, Hub Chazon, Alan Sussman, Edwin Fleet, Amy Jackson, Jane Lechter, Diana Fernandez, Alan Webb, David Greenberg, David Pressman, Selma Samansky, Faye Barnett. And if any of those people are yours in the room, please do rise now so we can honor and care about what's in your heart and share if there are more names to be lifted for healing. Chris. And you're welcome to stand or sit, whatever's right for you. Let us now do a prayer for healing. Page 253, Misha Berach. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let we take this moment now to share gratitude. If there's something in this past week that you are grateful for, or if there is a milestone that is meaningful, even in dark times, we are commanded on Shabbat to stay attendant to what we're grateful for, what's positive. So take a moment to reflect on that, and let's see what we can bring together. And for those observing at home, I hope very much that you're able to access the chat and type in what you're grateful for or meaningful accomplishments or milestones. And if you're observing with people next to you at home, take this moment to share with each other. Okay, gratitude, anything happening? Wendy. Thank you. It's an honor to serve, and everyone is welcome to. DL.
Grateful for the relative little loss of life in this storm so far.
Yes, grateful for the relative loss of life. I realize I may repeat some so those at home can share in our community as well.
I have a lot of friends from Sarasota and down in that area, and most of them did not get too much damage. The houses are complete and very little flooding, so I'm grateful that the people I know were not injured and that their houses were mostly intact.
So grateful for the people you know in those affected areas are safe. Ria.
I am grateful that we found Rabbi Rose, who led us through a wonderful service for Rosh Hashanah, and I know Yom Kippur will be better.
Amen. I'll go. I'm so grateful for Rabbi Rose. I'm also grateful for our cantorial soloist, Leah, who hopefully many of you know is the child of a board member, and I sang with her in choir just years ago. And what a gift. And I know it was so meaningful for her to lead us in cantorial prayer. More good things. Big, it could be small. You too? Oh, Jacob.
I'm grateful. I had COVID 2 weeks ago now, but for my first time. But thankfully it was extremely mild, and I got to get a week off school, which was really nice.
Jacob is grateful he had a mild COVID and some time off from the grind. Yes. Awesome. Gratitude that that rescheduling due to the storm allowed the film school project to perhaps be a little bit better. And I know you film students. I had a film made in my house, and I have some professors that are film professors, and wow, phenomenal, intense, 24/7 work. So I'm glad that that worked. Okay, I'm so glad that we can share moments big and small that we're grateful for. And I'm sorry, did we have a hand or a stretch over there? I'm grateful that you two come to services regularly. It's really wonderful to have you be in our community. Wonderful. Shehechianu and blessings for that. All right. Now I would love for Wendy and Kimbu to join me on the bima to open the ark for Aleinu, and I would love for Jacob to come up and chant Aleinu for us. And that will be on page 282, beginning. And please rise if you're willing and able, and I will turn and face the ark. Love you all watching over me.
Aleinu l'shabeach lado hachol, la'teit gedula shal yoter breshit, shefumer heshamayim, yoter aretz, umoshav yekaro bashamayim ima'al, Ushina Judo, Ushina Judo, Tego He Meromi, You Elohim, Eino, Emet Malkeinu, Rapatu Ato, Kakatu, Betorato. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Help everybody. It's wonderful. You're doing great.
Sorry, I read from the wrong passage.
It's wonderful to be together. Okay, thank you. Beautiful. And you may be seated. Let us turn now to page 288. Actually, let's move to 289, and we will do reading number 2, beginning with In Nature's Ebb and Flow. We can read together, or again, you're welcome to rest and open your heart. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. We will now turn to page 294 and 295 for Mourner's Cottage. Jacob will lead us, unless I would love more help. Oh, thank you. We are in Shiloshim, and please rise if you are here and would like to. We are in Shiloshim for Z.J. Lewis, friend of Bob Cantor. Bonnie Katz, sister-in-law of Lorraine Mirowitz and Nicole Mirowitz. Ian D'Souza, cousin of Wendy and Gary Sokolow. It is the yard site for Russell G. Kurzer, Walter Strauss, Mark Lewis Crivet, Jane Lewis, Abraham Akawi, Harry Lewis, Harry Horwich, Vincent P. Clark, Norman Frager, Alice P. Weiner, Rachel Stein-Lippman, Dr. Louis Schwartz, Howard Hesh-Milakovsky, Edward Gage, Larry Volk, Elizabeth Pujuelo Vergara, Elsie Mirenbaum, Sylvia Gerfine Morgenstern. Are there any other names in Shiloshim? And yard site. We may all rise if interested, willing, and able to support our mourners for Mourner's Cottage on page 294.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברך ירכה וימליך מלכותה, וחיינו יומנו וחיי בכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרי.
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך העולם עמי. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי קדושה בריחו, ואלוהים כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונקמתה, דמרים בעמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עולנו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. Please be seated. It is time for community announcements. I always find that moving to go from Mourner's Kaddish right back into the world. And isn't that how life is? And do we have any board members here would anyone enjoy reading the announcements? So here we go. Shabbat morning service will be tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., led by Isabel Potts. Please join us in person or Facebook Live. Please do review the High Holy Days page on the Temple Israel website for details on services for Kol Nidre and Yom Kippur. Kol Nidre Tuesday night, Yom Kippur Wednesday. Concluding with Nila at 6 p.m. I am really looking forward to Nila with Rabbi Rose. Everyone is invited to join the community Break the Fast at the end of Havdalah. The Harris family will again be our bagel sponsors. Please sign up for an item to bring on the Sign Up Genius, which can be found on the High Holy Days homepage, the Temple Israel Times, and on Facebook. Please note that all items should be vegetarian. It is so wonderful. Every year, our community really turns out, and we have a great potluck and temple-supported break fast. So if you would like to break fast together, it's a wonderful time to be together, and you don't have to bring food. You can just come. But if you can sign up and bring food, that's also appreciated. Looking beyond High Holy Days, join us for Sukkot and Simchat Torah. Sukkot activities. October 9th at 6 p.m. is the Erev Sukkot service. Bring your own dinner. So bring your dinner, be in the sukkah together. October 10th, 10 a.m., Sukkot morning service. October 12th at noon, lunch and learn in the sukkah. Bring a bagged lunch, so bring your lunch like a traveling wanderer and come sit in the sukkah and read and learn and pray together. Then, Shazam, October 18th is Simchat Torah. Festive, happy, wonderful celebration of the completion of the entire year of Torah. We are so excited to be back in person this year to unroll the sanctuary all around the room. This is what we do for Simchat Torah. If you haven't joined us before, it is magnificent. The entire Torah gets unrolled, and we help hold it up together all around the room. Other announcements, we always would love to have more greeters. You can talk with me or Rhea. You want to raise your hand? Rhea greets a lot. Lisa, it is an honor and a gift to welcome people for Shabbat. It also helps us to be a little more safe. There's a safety component to it. The primary purpose is greeting. And when you start greeting and welcoming, you feel like you are a part of Temple Israel. It's a really transformative experience, and we need you. So look at the Temple Israel website, and you'll see a big sign that says Shabbat Greeters, and you can sign up there and, again, talk to any of us. Jesse Colvin as well. Jesse, can you raise your hand? Other announcements. Oh, Joy. Joy has been greeting perhaps the longest of any of us. She's very experienced. She helps and supports me and Mimi, and she's a great resource, actually, for security protocols, for thinking things through. If you're not sure what to do, Joy, can you raise your hand one more time? Joy Ellsworth is a great point person for greeting.
Any other brief announcements? Okay. Motzi, do we have any young people here? Okay. We have some film people in college. You guys are under 40, correct? Can you come up? Naturally, you don't have to. I feel like we're getting a vibe, and I feel like I can be a little bit assertive. If it's not cool, tell me to, piss off. So we just hold this, and Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. If you don't know the words, don't worry about it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Mazel tov. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Boy, people are great. People are so great. Okay, I think we are going to have a closing song. And after our closing song, we hope, of course, the very best for everyone watching at home. We hope you have a beautiful Shabbat Shalom. We hope you maybe have some yummy food together and share fellowship. And everyone here is welcome to head to the social hall and share food and chat. Our closing song is on page 339. It is Hine Matov. Hine Matov is often done in the beginning, but it can be done at the end. And I chose Hine Matov because it means literally how great it is to be together under one tent. And there's so much going on right now, and these are scary times, so I wanted to close with how good it is to be together. Okay, 340, thank you. Again, we're all doing a beautiful job collaboratively doing our Shabbat. Hine matov umanahim shevet achim kahayav. Hine matov umanahim shevet achim kahayav. Again. Hine matov umanahim shevet achim kahayav. Hine matov umanahim shevet achim kahayav. Now repeat after me. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanahim shevet achim kahayav. Hine matov umanahim shevet achim kahayav. Shabbat shalom to everyone. If you have a siddur, please bring it back out. Shabbat shalom to everyone again watching at home, and so wonderful to be here together. You did it.